Hey ho! Let's go. Welcome back to our show tonight as we raise the topic of staying patient with that shit team you drafted recently, or like I did, or do you quickly pivot to the red hot starting free agents in your league? But before we get to the carnage that's Team Pugsley Baseball, we begin by asking you the question, where else would you rather be than right here? Booyah! Right now.
As we are now plowing into our 72nd year of collective fantasy baseball acumen and brilliance. We're here to talk some Major League Baseball, probably more Major League Baseball tonight, but with a fantasy spin. In addition to the panic button, we'll have a little conversation about torpedo bats, or the bomb bat, as we used to call them as kids, the big giant wiffle ball bat. We'll probably have a little jerk. I've been doing some research on what jerks and Profar took. I'm thinking about taking some myself. But as always, comment, hit the like button, follow us on YouTube, follow us at ball9.com, follow us on Spotify, follow us on Facebook. If you're live, chime in. We'll get to your comments as we can. Sean has decided that I'm no longer allowed solo.
No, you did a nice job. You did a nice job.
Or if he was like, this fucking idiot can't be by himself anymore. And I will tell you, I was overwhelmed, and when we're together, it's an hour and 5 to an hour and 8 minutes. By myself, I could barely manage 50. So,
no, you did a nice job. You're working without a net. You had to be graphics guy. By the way, this is episode 31 for us, Ball9.com
it is episode
Podcast
31.
Network. Hey, before we get to the fantasy topic, which is raging, I've made a few moves this week. I'm interested in different philosophies on this because let's go to the torpedo mania.
Yeah, let's do that.
Start with, because here's my take. Okay, I'm watching this thing. I was out of town all day Sunday in your favorite city, Boston, Massachusetts, and the early reaction was everybody started banging on the Yankees for hitting all these home runs against the Brewers, who, by the way, gave up 11 last night at home to the Royals.
And went viral for having a fan piss all over the concourse in the stadium after the game. Just literally a circle, stood in a circle and took a leak in a giant circle, and like totally overshadowed the phenomenal tribute to Bob Uecker phenomenal tribute to Bob Uecker.
Here's my thoughts. Okay, this bat's legal. It was used last year by some. It's caught on more using it. It's not a Yankee thing. This isn't the Patriots and Deflategate or Spygate. Here's a novel concept. Let me think. Pitch better.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of trying to throw the ball 182 miles an hour, why don't you spot the ball? Find a location that's not on the barrel of the bat. Hello, McFly. Is it really that hard? It's like in golf. When I swing out of my socks, guess where my ball goes? It veers off right into the woods every time. But when I use a little bit of finesse and a little bit of technique, let the club do the work, I might actually hit the ball not quite down the middle, maybe a little off the side, but you have more control. Miss the bats.
I have never associated the word finesse with you in the 35 years I've known you.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you got to redefine yourselves.
So this is a direct message to Dave Portnoy, you fucking idiot.
I hate him.
You founded a company called Barstool Sports. How about actually know something about sports before you go on this rant? You dusted off your Red Sox hat that you haven't had on for 15 years, put it on, ranted about how the Yankees are cheating, and never thought for 1 second, on a platform that's got a lot of followers, never thought for 1 second, maybe I better look into this a little bit before I open up my mouth. Well, as Vince Lombardi said, any press is good press, so he's gotten plenty of attention. I've been having a blast with him for the last 3 days, and everybody that works for him has been running away from him, trying to trying to talk their way around this mess. So I'm watching the Yankee game tonight, and the Yankees have tied the major league record for most homers by a team in the first 4 games at 16 tonight, with Dominguez and Volpe both homering, Volpe using the torpedo bat. And then reading the article about the guy that is now in the Marlins organization, who,
Yes.
an MIT grad, you hire somebody in analytics that knows something about engineering, and then hearing that players are just ordering these bats now. They're designed specifically to the player. Giancarlo Stanton used one last year. Jose Trevino said, who's now on the Reds, said, I've been using them for 2 years. It hasn't helped me one.
Well, it doesn't help
everybody. You still got to hit a baseball.
Yes.
And all they're doing is they're using analytics to determine where a batter makes the most contact, and they're loading up that part of the bat with the most wood they can, and still have a legal bat. The diameter can only be so big, the length can only be so big, the weight can only be so big. I mean, Babe Ruth from a telephone pole. Right? Pitching gets faster, bats get smaller, bats get lighter, handles get thinner. Everybody, and they're all designed differently. So you can't just go order these things off the rack. And I think Jeff Passan's quote that this is the biggest shockwave in bat technology since everybody switched from ash to maple.
Which was not all that long ago.
Oh, it was Bonds. Switched. Bonds was the poster child for switching to maple bat.
And now everyone uses maple.
And now everybody uses
maple.
It's more plentiful. Ash is harder to get. It's a harder wood.
This new bat design does not guarantee success. My God.
Nor uses when he's hitting 077.
The first 4 starts for the Chicago White Sox, their pitchers I saw combined 23 innings pitch and no earned runs. So
yeah, we'll get to that. That's
not a whole baseball-wide epidemic that there's going to be 18 runs a game unless you're playing in a AAA stadium out in Cowtown with a fucking pool shed at a press conference places and no clubhouse. I digress. But yeah, it's pitch better.
And if
just pitch.
Anybody thinks that Major League Baseball is going to do anything about this, you better find something else to be worried about, because
it's a juicy talking point that gets them talking about.
They didn't do anything about Sosa and McGuire. No. They are loving this. Balls are flying out of the ballpark. They are loving this. In New York, they are loving this.
Absolutely.
Guess who else is loving this? The MLBPA is loving it too, because guess what happens when you hit home runs? You make more money, unless you get caught
cheating.
Jerks and Profar. That's a 32-year-old guy all of a sudden become an all-star. Oh, I know. You take a drug.
Yes.
That's designed. That's specifically made for female pregnancy. That's what it's specifically made for. But when a male takes it, it increases testosterone and muscle mass.
Okay.
And he didn't know he took it.
Of course not.
I didn't know that taking a substance that's clearly banned. It's probably the same shit Manny Ramirez took.
At least he said it. At least it wasn't Peyton Manning. It was for my wife.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Phony.
And she should have blamed Tatis. He had a perfect out. Fernando Tatis told me this was okay.
There you go.
It would have been it was a perfect out. Yeah, this isn't going away. Jeffers in Minnesota uses it. Like, when you find out the players in baseball, Ellie De La Cruz hits 2 homers, drives in 7 last night. Guess what he's using? He's using the torpedo bat.
He could have hit those balls out that Kumar Rocker was serving up with a toothpick.
Oh,
okay.
Could have hit him out with a
I had that game on. I was watching that.
I mean, look at he makes contact. He hits home runs. The torpedo bat means nothing. Doesn't mean a damn bit of difference.
No, it's
all
just
about harder contact.
It's the early season fad. It's the talking point. Baseball loves it. You're 100% right about that.
And because if it was any other team,
yes,
if it was any other team besides the Yankees, there would have been zero. There would have been some murmur, but there wouldn't have been this crazy outcry like there's been for the last 3 or 4 days. But hey, look it's good to be. It's as much as I've decided that being on Twitter, X, whatever Elon calls it,
fuck him.
I don't go on during the games because I just can't, somebody grounds out and they should be traded or DFA'd. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. But seeing how much the Yankees are hated makes us feel like the Yankees again.
Sure.
And I know it's early and who needs pitching? But I mean, when you're scoring 20 runs, you don't need pitching. But maybe it's the Brewers. Maybe the Brewers are bad.
Yeah.
I mean, Kansas City lit them up last night. Like maybe the Brewers just can't pitch. And they're going to get Brandon Woodruff back pretty soon. I think he's pitching a sim game. And then 5 days later, he's pitching another one. And then they don't know if they're going to send him for rehab starts or they're going to send him to keep him in a spring training complex and just have him face live batters. And he'll be back in the rotation soon enough. The Brewers will be fine.
They're up 2-0 tonight in the 4th.
It's early.
So they're hanging in there.
Who's pitching? Freddie Peralta?
Patrick's pitching.
Yeah, I mean, they're trotting out. I mean, they're trotting out. Their pitching staff's not great. Their bullpen's worse. No. They can't get to McGill if they have to, and he should have kept his mouth closed. Right? He should have kept his mouth.
Stop whining.
Look in your own bat rack and see if any of your own guys are using them before you say stuff. Like, stop. Just stop. Schwarber hit one off the batter's eye in Philadelphia last night. He's not using one of those bats.
Yep.
he just hit a bomb.
All right.
And Corbin Burns is exiting his first start as a Diamondback.
Bust. So early season, okay. So we sat in our draft not long ago, and I told anybody who would listen, don't draft David Bednar. He got drafted, and he got optioned out to the minors today.
Panic.
Rafael Devers, not handling it. I don't think he won't say if he's pissed about the DH thing. He's not. He's saying all the right things finally. But 15 strikeouts a night, the only time I've ever seen a strikeout rate that bad or worse was probably my success rate after midnight in college bars up in upstate New York with some of the fine young lasses that Plattsburgh, New York had.
You're a legendary whiffer. You're like
yeah. So I was worse than Devers now, but that shouldn't make him feel any better.
You're getting paid.
I would. True. I would suggest
there was no expectation. There's no expectation.
Yeah,
Devers had more strikeouts in the first 5 games than Tony Gwynn had in a full season, than Joe DiMaggio had in a full season.
Yes.
That's a lot. 15 strikeouts is a lot. I'm not even benching Rafael Devers. No, because guess what happens if he breaks out? He breaks out, he gets 3 homers and drives in 8.
True.
I am players like him, marathon, not a sprint. I don't panic. If they're injured, that's a totally different thing. The only thing hurt with him is his feelings.
True.
And he can pout all he wants. He can pout every single minute of every single inning of every single game. Alex Cora's not changing his mind. He's the second worst rated defensive third baseman in baseball. Bregman is not that. He's not. Their pitching staff is not great. Their pitching staff is not good. I mean, even Crochet's off to a little slow start even with his big giant check that he just got.
Yep.
Their pitching staff's not very good. I mean, Tanner Houck, good luck.
Here's the thing. This is where it gets tricky, okay? You spend all winter getting ready for the draft. Now, I've made a bunch of moves.
Yes, you have.
Mostly, well, two of my pitchers, Mania and Clark Schmidt, got DL'd, so I had to go pick up guys to replace them.
Yeah.
But I'm jumping all over. And I picked up Hayden Birdsong. But then I cut him because I needed a live body instead of a project. But it's not bad to have some of those guys, right? I picked up Mitchell Parker, who I love. Had a good first outing with the Nats. Went and picked him up. I'm still looking at a few other guys trying to figure out who's the right piece. Because a guy didn't get drafted, he gets off to a good start, and sometimes career years are career years.
Right.
And you get burned waiting. A few years ago, when Cliff Lee was with Cleveland, when he really burst onto the scene, he started off 4-0 at a couple shutouts to get started. I picked him up off the scrap heap. He was so good, I was convinced it wasn't going to last. And I traded him after about a month for one of the most underachieving players in the history of fantasy baseball, Justin Upton.
Yeah.
And I rue that. Lee finished up like 18-2 that year, something insane.
Yeah.
And I finished 10th.
He was phenomenal. So my feeling on it is this: you got DL moves that you have to make, and this midweek start is a disaster. And then they don't put guys on the DL until 1:00 right before the game, and your roster's screwed. And the first week's a little bit of a throwaway in some regards, anyway. But usually for me, I'm taking guys on my bench that I've been tracking during the offseason that could have breakout years. That's my bench.
Yep.
It almost always is. Or this guy could be the closer, or this guy could be, could be the third starter. Guys that you don't know, right? So replacing them for somebody that's hot, especially when you notice all of a sudden they're not getting at bats or they're not getting any innings, and you're like, but what's the point? But what you're going to cut Francisco Lindor because he hit no 70? No,
of course.
You're going to cut Yordan because he hit no 73?
No,
but that's the panic. But that's the panic that happens, that guys get benched that have long track records because people panic off a 4-game sample size. And if you panic off a 4-game sample size, that's all you do all year. Now, there are guys sitting out there, like I'm watching Gavin Sheets. Could Gavin Sheets finally be at an organization that cares about player development and he reaches his potential? Is Spencer Torkelson back? He might be.
He might be. Soderstrom in Oakland. In Oakland hasn't done much. He's doing great this year. He hasn't lived up to his first-round draft grade.
I mean, you got to watch the White Sox starting pitching. You have to. You got, especially Sean Burke. You got to pay attention to them. Is Otto Lopez
picked up Burke today? I picked up Thomas Harrington. The Pirates called him up to start today.
I was going to pick him up.
He's losing 3-0 to Tampa.
Not a great debut, but he's there.
But you know what? I didn't expect him to be great tonight. I hope he gets another one on Sunday so I can really gauge him now on a 2-start sample. Well, that's what I want for him.
If it was any other team than the Pirates, and I'll get a real sense because I'll be there Saturday. I'll get a real sense of how Pirate fans feel. I have a pretty good sense from the Pirate fans that I feel on X, how they feel about Ben Cherington and about Bob Nuttig and about the organization. I got a pretty good sense, right? Very, very frustrated. Frustrated that Harrington didn't start the year in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Frustrated that Mitch Keller's the home opener starter and not Skeens. Only the Pirates would be that stupid, right?
What are we, 5 days in? I've cut Mitch Keller twice already this year. Sorry, Mitch. You're not going to move the needle.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys. He's like Charlie Morton. He's at the top of the drop list off one start. Off one start. Because he got drafted, everybody's like, I guess I need an arm. I'll take him.
I drafted him. I needed an arm. I had about 15 beers in me at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
focusing on my list wasn't the easiest task at that
No.
point of the day. And I
No.
went with a guy I knew. And then I cut him the next day when I picked up Birdsong, and who I cut for somebody else. And here we are, Thomas Aaron and Mitchell Parker.
Oh,
And
Mitchell
Tyler
Parker.
McGill.
See, like that's a guy for me. His track record tells me I'm not picking him up.
Who, McGill?
Yeah.
I actually watched him, his outing. I thought he looked pretty good. Good enough for me to go pick him up.
Exactly.
Just
right. So that's the patience and the panic thing, right?
Yep.
One outing, March 30th. He looked great. This is not just you. This is every league I'm in. I'm going to go get this guy. He goes out in 2 days. The Marlins of all teams light him up, and he'll be there for everybody else to pick up in a week. And there's
I cut the guys during the games. I don't even.
There's so many. I've done that too. There's so many of those players. There's so many of those players that you didn't want to draft them, but you did anyway because I needed to. Right? I needed to draft it. I needed a second baseman, so I drafted Luis Renigfa, and he's off to a miserable start.
Yep.
And I got 15 more games before I can put Chisholm in that second base. There's nobody else to really go get. Right?
Second base?
I'm not happy with how the start that Ezekiel Tovar's off to, and I'm like looking and I'm like, wait a minute, I got Zach Kozart going on a rehab assignment, so I just gotta wait. Not Zach Kozart, kid from the Angels. Now I can't think of his name. Zach
Neto.
I can't why am I going to make a move for a week? I don't need to make a move for a week. Like, I don't like to pick up guys that are going to help me for a week. The fact that I have Nicholas Castellanos on my roster is as much of an upset as there's ever been in the history of fantasy sports.
Other than the big man in Massachusetts drafting Aaron Judge in the first round of our head-to-head league is something that just made my day. But yeah, so you talk about 1 week. Okay, so I lose Geloff because the A's X-ray technicians are complete idiots and totally
because it's also in the same because their X-ray machine's in the same shed as the
press room. By the way, I took a hammering last week. Look, when you're in a dynasty league with 11 other guys, and you know them like the back of your hand, you better get a closer when you have to if you don't have a first round pick. Hence Mason Miller. When I was denigrating the relief pitcher position the entire off season, it was really more meant for open drafts. So, but anyway.
No, it was really more meant to just prove to the world that you're a bullshit artist and you were just throwing a smokescreen. You were using this platform to influence our league.
Not true. No, I wouldn't do that to our loyal 6-pack of viewers. I wouldn't do that.
Our loyal listener.
Yeah. Uncle Ted. Conspicuous by his absence this evening. But second base is interesting. Okay, so I pick up Brendan Donovan, and then I picked up Jonathan India instead.
Yeah.
He did nothing the first few days. I'm driving home from Boston Sunday night, stop at a rest area, check my live scoring, saw that he took one off the coconut from Clase. And my immediate thought is, I need to cut him because he's probably going to be under observation for a few days. He wasn't. Yeah. He had a nice day yesterday.
It knocked some sense into him is what it did.
It did. But I lost like 6 games to injuries over the weekend with Trey Turner and Josh Young, all these guys. I'm like, my God, go play. So I picked Donovan back up. Now, I see Indy had a good day yesterday, but Donovan homered last night. But then I go look at, you talk about the hot guy. I go look at Otto Lopez in Florida, tearing it up. He's in our league. I almost picked him up today. I'm like, not yet. A guy like Christian Campbell, I would have gone and picked up if he was available. He looks like a player.
The player So this is where I kick myself in the post-draft analysis, where I kick myself in the ass is I wanted Victor Scott.
Yep.
But as I continued to draft and I started to get on rubbery legs and was having some trouble focusing,
it happens.
I got hit with a glass of bourbon and it put me on Queer Street for about 3 rounds. So I was just trying to hang on, finish out if I had a good lead going, I figured if I could just hang on and finish out the 12 rounds, I'd be all right.
Just tried to coast.
And I wanted to take Victor Scott, and I didn't. But I knew that I had 3 DL moves coming up.
Yes.
I knew that Woodruff was going on the DL. I knew that Woodruff, Neto, and I forget my third guy that were already hurt, and I knew they were going on the IL. I knew they were. None of them went on until like Thursday between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Well, Victor Scott was already gone.
Yeah.
And he's got 4 steals. He's got a homer. He's going to be the center fielder. Local boy does good. Mike Ciani's going to get to play a little bit, but Victor Scott's got that job. Jordan Walker looks like he's broken out a little bit in St. Louis. They're probably the most surprising team. I mean, the White Sox are a little surprising.
You look at some of the guys on St. Louis, some of the really hot young players, they're on St. Louis. Nootbaar is like finally becoming the guy people thought he might be.
Told you.
He's off to a great start.
Told you that's a guy to watch, right?
Yep.
Going to play every day. He's healthy. Batting leadoff. Izzy Herrera's off to a pretty good start. I mean, they're
age 27 year for Nootbaar.
They're scrappy, right? So they're a scrappy team. They can't pitch to save their lives. I mean, they still
maybe
have
the best fans in baseball will start to come back and actually enjoy the product.
25,000 opening day.
That's it?
Yeah, smallest opening day crowd in like 23 years.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
What are they trying to do?
The weather, it was not great weather, but it was the smallest.
It's never mattered in St. Louis.
It was the smallest attended sellout in the history of that stadium.
They trying to relocate the team to West Sacramento, California?
No, you know what? Those fans are super smart about baseball.
Yeah, they're great fans.
They're tremendous baseball fans. Tremendous. Probably the best in baseball, right? Appreciation for visiting players, appreciation for good baseball, all of it, right? Just like good, solid baseball fans who are also, I mean, Cubs fans would totally disagree with this, but are also Cardinal fans. When
Cubs fans are good, though.
They haven't had a rebuild since when? Forever. It's been forever, right? They've developed players. They've drafted really well. John Mozeliak says this is his last year. He's already kind of gutted the farm system for nothing. And he had no interest in keeping Goldschmidt, none. And Goldschmidt looks fine to me. He looks fine. And he goes out and grabs pitching that can't pitch. And they're frustrated, and they know that they can make a statement. They know they can make. I know, Uncle Ted. Thanks for joining us and pointing that out. That's our guy, man. Uncle Ted, that's our guy. We were all on a Thomas Harrington bandwagon.
Do I cut him now?
This organization calls him up on a whim.
I can't cut him now.
This is how. When you live in a world where. When you live in a world where expectation is never met by actual events, which is me, I think I got Andrew Heaney on Saturday in Pittsburgh.
Really? Do you get a discount on your ticket?
Because leave it. It's hard. It's not easy to get a ticket because the Yankee fans are going to flock there. Got a chance to go see that stadium, which is the nicest stadium in baseball that I've been to. How do you not? Like, I guess I get it. I get it. You want Skeens to be your opening day starter. But you've done nothing for your fucking fans since the 80s. The only thing you've done for your fans since the We Are Family days, or actually since Clint Hurdle was the manager. No, before that, since you built a nice ballpark. That's the only thing you've done. And you have an opportunity to reward your fans on opening day by having Paul Skeens pitch against the Yankees. And what do you do? What do you do? Uncle Ted, I keep Harrington and I pick up Sean Burke.
Uncle Ted, what do you think?
I'm a big fan of young pitchers that could develop into, especially in a dynasty league. I'm a huge fan of young pitching that looks like they could be really good.
Yeah.
Because it helps your. I mean, I got Skeens and Hunter Green as a case in point, right? Like,
sure.
I'd rather have both of them than than Corbin Burns and D-Rod, than Corbin Burns and another veteran pitcher, than Zach Wheeler, because I also know if I need to trade him, I got value that's higher than both of those guys.
Yeah, hey, Uncle Ted, I don't think you were on yet, or at least you hadn't commented. I actually thought Harrington looked pretty good before it got away from him. He'll stick around for me for the rest of the week for sure. Hopefully he gets another start soon.
Yeah, the Pirates weren't bad when Bonds was there. The Pirates competed when Clint Hurdle was the manager. And since then, it's been a total crap show. They are 49 games over 500 for the entirety of the franchise. They've been playing baseball in Pittsburgh since something like 1902.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
They're a 500 organization for 120 years. And they wonder why Pirate fans are pissed off. He'll figure out how to get lefties out. And it won't be because the Pirates help him. I can tell you that.
What time is your game Saturday?
4:05 Saturday. In the Bird. If I can talk my young son into hanging out for an extra half a day in Pittsburgh, I might go to 1:35 on Sunday.
Sweet. Who's going? Just the two of you?
He's not going. He doesn't like baseball.
What?
You heard me. It's boring.
Wow.
Just me. I'm gonna try to get myself on ESPN. I'm gonna moon a right fielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
You going? Where's that place we went in Pittsburgh? The where they were shooting that sake about 20 feet across the room through a bullseye. The hibachi place.
I will not be going there. There's a Cuban restaurant. There's a Cuban restaurant right near our hotel. I will be going to Cuban food Friday night.
Sweet.
I will definitely be going to. There's a new Cuban place downtown. It's really good. Yeah, John 316.
John 316 sign.
I'm gonna wear a Mike 6969 shirt with a afro wig.
Don't go dressed as a wolf and call yourself Cheapaholic, though.
I'm not. Maybe I'll get. I got an old Halloween costume from when the kids were young. It's a pirate costume. Maybe I'll go as a swashbuckler.
Yeah, Uncle Ted, I heard what happened to that guy. That guy was nuts. Brandon Donovan 0 for 3. I might have to cut him and pick up Otto Lopez. It's not happening. The team is off to a bad start.
Otto Lopez.
I did a great job during the draft. You couldn't do a better job than I could. I got a B+ by the CBS rankings. That's the highest grade I've received in my entire life at any academic level or any draft. It's not my fault. The players are letting me down.
Is that really what happened to the Afro guy?
What?
You held a bunch of people hostage with a gun? That's a real thing?
Really? I didn't know that.
Holy cow. You know what? I can see it.
John 316 guy with the rainbow afro.
Sean, doing some in-show research. We're doing some in-show research. So while we're talking about
Roland Stewart is his name. Here's his picture. Yeah, yeah, I'm working. I'm trying to find it.
So we're trying to do
I
that.
keep forgetting that. Yeah.
Let's talk about guys that if you're going to pick guys up, if you're going to panic and you're going to pick somebody up, like guys you should be actually going to get.
Yep.
Like Luke Jackson is top of the list. It looks like he's getting the saves in Texas. If you're in a holds league, you want Martin and Jackson. They're going to win a lot of games. They scored Kieran Paris for sure. Looks like he got the job in center field. He's going to run wild. They did call it going postal. They did call it going postal. Now they call it back to school. Sadly,
or Tuesday in America.
Yeah, they call it today. Kieran Paris looks like, as much as Angel fans want him to play second base, it looks like he's like they're on Ron Washington a little bit. Ron Washington's a lot of things. What he's not ignorant about baseball.
All right, here, let's close the book on this. Roland Frederick Stewart, February 23rd, 1944, convicted multiple kidnapping charges following an incident in 1992, is now serving 3 life sentences.
3 life sentences.
3.
Well, how about that?
I'll tell you what, if he can figure out that trick to even get to a second or a third, then maybe some of that 316 stuff worked.
Yeah, maybe.
That'd be a neat trick. Anyway.
What if he's wearing the Afro wig in the joint? or is that contraband?
It might be.
Not allowed to have it. Wait a minute. I'm famous.
No.
I got a feeling that's a place where you want to be anonymous.
Maybe he gets to wear it in the yard on every other Friday. It's his thing.
Yeah, Soriano off to a good start for the Angels somehow, some way. Our guy Karachnichik, not a great. He didn't have a great start, but he pitched, and they did let him pitch. Back in the bullpen looks good. Kenley Jansen, it's early. He's not tired. Joyce looks phenomenal setting him up. He's throwing 104. Holy cow. I mean, there's like the hold league, like in a hold league, there are some legit opportunities if you're in a league that has holds as a scoring category to get some really, really good pitching in every platform that you're playing. Like in every single platform. Jason Adden and San Diego, Padres off to a tremendous start. Everybody in the Dodger bullpen. You know, like I drafted Tanner Scott, and they could have 4 guys get 20 saves. Like they really. Yes, D-Rod, I did notice the Yankees defense is still bad. I've noticed it time and time again. Maybe making third base a priority would have been a good plan. Maybe that would have been an idea that you could actually think about, right? I mean, it's just, you got to be kidding me. Will Warren with a nice little start tonight for the Yankees. Another young pitcher that maybe people should be keeping their eye on. 6 innings.
Who's a guy on one of your teams are you fighting to hold on to have faith in?
Am I fighting to hold on to have faith in?
Yeah.
Well, I won't count my National League only team because that doesn't count. It's Luis Renigfo right now for me, but I have time with him.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of time with him in our head-to-head league. I haven't really even given it that depth of thought. To be
Like for
honest,
me, I've made a lot of moves, but it's all
to be
depth.
honest with you, it's Kikuchi. Like the
What?
Angels pitching's off to a good start. Kikuchi's their worst starter.
Yeah. For me, I'm talking about all these moves I'm making. All these guys are on my bench. I'm just rotating through my bench to find the best guy with some upside in case I get injuries, which I will.
You
So
will.
I did get a win from Sandy Alcantara tonight, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, the Ottavino signing. Hey, they got to bring in somebody when they're down 9-1 in the fourth, and might
I'm
as well
still unhappy with that.
eat an
Probably
inning.
maybe in the content creators league. Well, I did have Jerks and Profar in that league, so I had to make a move. In that league, it's probably Reese Olson. That's probably the guy. That's probably the guy that I have the least amount of faith in right now. In a full MLB league. And I had Kerry Carpenter. I dumped him. He's been dumped. Right. And Ted, you're right. Like, because if you can load your bench up with starters that are good, and it's hard to not get caught up in my bench had a better start than my starters, but better to go to your bench to fill in a starter spot for the upcoming week than try to go out into the waiver wire and find who.
Yeah, my preference
Paul
is
Blackburn?
we have a 5-person bench. I prefer to have 3 starters and a third closer. Four-fifths of my team my bench is pitching for that reason. Though I love my starting 5. I love my 5 starters with Wheeler, Sale, Arrighetti, Alcantara, and Rodon. I'm thrilled with that.
You must have liked Arrighetti's first start.
Yeah, I had no problem with it.
Told you.
It was good.
So who gets saves in Pittsburgh? Who's the closer in Pittsburgh now? Is the guy whose name is it a guy who didn't live up to his name when he was the setup guy, Holderman? Or is it Dennis Santana, who I was thinking all year might have been all off season, might have been the closer anyway?
Yeah, maybe.
Cincinnati, shortest honeymoon. I saw this shortest honeymoon for any manager in history was Terry Francona. And they got off to a bad start.
Yeah, did I see they're struggling again tonight?
Is it Pagan? I don't know. So far, I was wrong about Jeff Hoffman. Closers are finicky, though. Closers are finicky as finicky. Devin Williams on the paternity list. It's going to be Luke Weaver this weekend. If you're in a daily league and you got him in your team and you can make moves on a daily basis and he's on your team as a setup guy, you need to get him in your lineup now. 4-2 in the bottom of the 7th in New York. He's going to get the save tonight if they win.
Yeah.
And they signed Adam Ottavino.
Congratulations.
I thought it was an April Fool's Day joke. It wasn't.
Yeah, D-Rod. I get to D-Rod's comment here. It is hard. I got a couple already on the IL. Just keep them coming. I think there's enough depth at starting pitching. You can't overcome injuries to some of your key guys.
The cutoff is so great, though. Like the tiers there's such a gap in tiers in starting pitching. There's such a gap in tiers. And in most positions there are, right? Like shortstop, like tier 1's got a lot of guys, right? Outfield tier 1's got a lot of guys. First base tier 1's got a lot of guys. So the gap is definitely going to be bigger, but starting pitching, like there's tier 1 and tier 2, and then the tier 3, that's a big gap. That's a big gap, and I am very surprised. Matt Olson, 73.
What's that?
Michael Harris was hitting.
Yeah. The Braves haven't hit. It's early. They had, at San Diego, at LA. That's not an easy start.
I'll worry about. When Acuna comes back by May 15th, then everything we need to know about the Braves will know.
Sale and Dustin May's back at it tonight. We'll see how he does here.
You look good. Non-conference games, yeah. Except for you don't get to schedule. You don't get to schedule Liberty when you're Notre Dame, because God forbid Notre Dame play anybody tough in a non-conference game because they might actually lose. You don't want that to happen. I digress.
Yeah, it's early on. And, hopefully Sale can twirl one against the Dodgers and get
Yeah,
the
it wasn't
Braves
sharp
right.
opening day. He was still good enough.
It was okay.
But not what you have seen, right? And it's early. It's early. There's a lot of young guys. There's a lot of young players in Major League Baseball right now. A lot. And
yes, there are.
They're playing really well.
Here's the tricky part again. Okay, so you got these young guys that are all off to great starts. Do you just abandon the guys that you spent the winter deciding you really want them on your team?
It depends.
What are we, 5 games in?
We're 5 games in.
Okay, we're 5 games in. You got to be a little patient. You drafted these guys for a reason. Unless you just want to blame alcohol on it and cut your losses and move on.
No, we got that excuse is
that option is on the table.
It's definitely on the table. I think, like I said before, I think it depends on, did I take this young player on the end of my bench because I thought he was gonna get off to a breakout start and he was going to be, top 10 rookie of the year guy, or he's age 27, he's going to break out this year. And he's really not playing and he's really not doing anything when he does play, but this guy's really doing well, right? This guy's really doing well. And maybe I better grab him in case this hangs on. Because if this hangs on, then and I don't get him, it's going to be too late, right? It's going to be way too late. Like Magnum and Tampa is off to a phenomenal start, right? He's off to a really good start, driving in runs, and Tampa and the A's are both in interesting situations to me because you got history of players and on ballparks that they don't play in anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So that there's no power in Tampa, there's no power in Oakland, you can't get the ball out. Now they're playing in these bandbox minor league stadiums or spring training stadiums, and maybe all of a sudden power ticks up because they're going to play half their games there.
Yeah.
So maybe Cameron, that's like it's those guys right there, Uncle Ted, like Cameron Misner. Do you pick them up? You got a pretty good year last year. He's up, he's playing, he's in the lineup. You hate to watch box scores every single day and watch all the box scores looking for waiver wire moves, but the first 2 weeks you have to.
Yeah.
Because if you snooze, you lose, and
exactly.
But for me, I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to make a move just to make a move. I don't want to make a move to make a move. Ted, it's not like the old days when the Sporting News came on Saturday,
yes,
and we read a full week of box scores, every single box score for a full week on Saturday when the Sporting News when the Sporting News showed up in the mail. And the West Coast scores for us on the East Coast. So like maybe our paper had them, maybe they didn't. Maybe if they had room, they put in last night's box scores But
let me tell you, here's the beauty of fantasy baseball. This is why I like overreactive owners, even though I'm one. Watch the box scores, but also watch your league's waiver transactions. Guys overreact. They get nervous. They cut a guy. You could land gold mines for the rest of the year by watching your transactions. Hence the alert that I get to my phone when somebody makes one. I want to know.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Devers. I'm waiting for Devers to get cut.
You can go get some really good players off that waiver wire because the owners just decided that they can't handle waiting any longer, and they cut players. I've done it. It happens.
Yeah, we've all cut guys I wish we didn't cut.
Sure. Not every move works out. Not every move is a great move.
No, it's not.
So go ahead and panic, fellas, girls, boys. Just
cut everybody.
Cut everyone.
Ooh.
We'll be there to scoop them up.
They gave Corbin Burns 98 pitches tonight, and he only made it through 4 1/3.
That's working them.
I did hear at the beginning of the game tonight when they took a lead, it was the first lead he's ever had against the Yankees.
Really?
Yeah. 16 starts.
Wow.
It was the first time he's ever had a lead. And his ERA against the Yankees like 3.1. Like,
that's crazy.
Cow. Holy cow. So it's not like they're lighting him up.
All right.
Like everybody else. The Orioles thought he was going to give up 1 run. The Brewers always thought he was going to give up 1 run, so they didn't hit.
Did a lot of that. Next week, right? We're going to have a couple features for new viewers that didn't catch us last year.
Yeah.
We'll get back to our regular format. Start them and sit them. Or who's hot, who's not. Not start them and sit them. We're in the middle of the week. Who's hot, who's not. And then
ad drop.
Who should you get? And who should you just cut bait on?
You get our fantasy player of the week, our fantasy dud of the week.
Yep.
It would have been Devers off the first weekend. It wouldn't even been close. And there's a lot of guys that could have been in that category, but you can't strike out 15 times in 4 games.
No, that's hard to do.
That's a lot. He could have been using a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and it still wouldn't have helped. Instead of a torpedo bat.
That's a shame. Just a shame.
It is a shame. Smash the like button. Thanks, D-Rod. Thanks, Uncle Ted. Always good to have you guys jump in. Give us some more shit to talk about.
Absolutely. And Mike, great job again last week. You flew solo for the first time. You were fine.
Every once in a while, if I could bring my A game when you're here, that would actually be great. But you know what? I'll figure. What the hell? You'll pick up the slack.
Hey, D equals diploma where I come from.
Yeah, fair point.
That's all it takes. All right. Oh, one more comment. Who we got? Oh, D-Rod, be good, man. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks again.
All righty.